Hi members, welcome back. So I'm starting off with 13 inches of 18 gauge square soft copper wire, and I'm just going to straighten this out by holding one end with a metal plier and taking my nylon jaw and running it down the wire to get the lumps and the warps out of it, and then I'll turn my square in the other direction and run my nylon jaw down it to get rid of to straighten it in both directions. It's four sides to a square. So I'm going to, my stone is a little tiger eye teardrop. It's 1 inch tall by 3/4 inch wide. And I'll take a metal plier to the center of my wire. Just brace it with my finger, turn it into a U shape. Just bend it over on itself like that. Take it from its side. Hold on to the bottom couple of millimeter here. We'll just make a soft bend to one side with the wires and a soft bend to the other side with the other half of the wire. Just take these down to a soft horizontal position like that. Give yourself a little point right here just for some cuteness. I'll take it out a little bit more. Just hold on real tight right there. And I'll squeeze that a little bit closed. Not to crush it, just to get it closed a little bit. And that's pretty good. And you can either shape this with your fingers around your stone, or you can use a dowel. I like to use a little wooden dowel. It's similar in size to what I want, so I'll hold my wire right here. Going to run it up. Take the other one, crisscross at the top center. It's a little hard for me under the camera here. Just make sure that where they crisscross is center to the bottom so you get a nice even frame. About like that. And that's pretty good. Just shore it up a little bit. Once you get the frame the way you want it, just do a quick check with your stone. I'm going to make that just a little bit smaller. Just by pulling these two sides in a little bit. I get it a little closer to my stone. So I've got about 1, maybe 2 millimeter around the sides of my stone here, and that looks pretty good to me. So when you get your frame the way you want it, hold it right there, give nice pressure, put the pad of your thumb in there, and I like to just pinch them straight up. Just jiggle them and work them a little bit until they're nice and side by side, and that center line should be nice and center with your bottom point. Do another little check on the size of your stone or the fit of your stone, and that looks great. So just like that. Once you get that, let's go ahead and take 16 inches of 22 gauge half round, or you could certainly use weaving wire and weave your veil. I'm just going to take my 22 gauge half round, put a little hook at the end, make sure the flat side's on the inside, that the wire's nice and straight. It's half round, so you can just work that with your finger. Get a hold of your frame, put the little hook over the bail wires here. That little fragment's just for you to hold on to. Get everything nice and side by side. Make 3 nice little wraps here. Get the neck of your pendant together. Just put this little shorty off to the side there. Sit everything down real nice. Give it a little tap so that it all cinches up really nice right there. You can make your bail as long as you like. I like to go 1.25 inches, and it gives me a 1/2 inch bail with a nice inside diameter of about 3 millimeters. So I'm just going to wrap my half round up. You can do this any way you like. I like to usually just hold the half round and turn the frame. And about every 1/2 inch or 1/4 inch, just settle your wires there. Give them all a nice tap. Make sure your wraps are side by side and that the flat side of the half round stays against the frame wire and that the curved side is up and decorative. Take about 5 more turns, another 1/4 inch here. And you should have a couple of inches of half round left when you've reached your distance there. Okay? You can trim this guy off down here to the inside. Give it a little tap. This side, since we just cut right there, we'll hammer the edges of this frame. So I'm just going to hammer the curves more to flare them out. You don't have to hammer. Just going to hit my curves and bring them out a little bit. Hitting more on the curve here, and I'm going to hit less on the straightaways to give a tapering to my metal, to taper the metal. I'll do the same to this side. Be careful not to hit your little point right there if you can avoid it. And then just make a nice transition in the metal, and that looks pretty good. And I'm going to take my bail wires now, and I'm going to fold them to the back of the frame. I'll get my bailing pliers here, my step pliers. I'm going to use about the 3 millimeter round, get into the center of my frame here, and I'm just going to bend these bail wires down onto themselves so that my wraps meet. Use a plier and just pinch that a little bit, get them close. Take the remaining length of your half round once you get down there and just do a couple of nice clean wraps around the neck. Bring the wire here to the back. And just wrap around this stem. A couple of times to tie it off. Guess who wants attention? There's Jolene. Once I get that all wrapped up, just going to snip I need to snip a little more. Snip away the half round in the middle, tap it down, turn to the back, just separate these a little bit. Use your fingers, just follow the curve back around here, just like that. Get these two kind of sloped into a nice crisscross down here at the middle. Whoop. Just push that out a little bit more, just like that. And your stone should sit nicely right there in the frame. They should crisscross bottom center. Okay? There's a lot of ways that you can handle these down here. The easiest way probably is just to turn them back upright. So I'll keep them crisscrossed here at the bottom, and I'll get my plier and I'll just turn them from the center outward, just like that. Your stone should balance on that back frame pretty well. And right here to secure that up, I'm just going to get 6 inches of 22 gauge half round wire. I'll bend it in half here in the middle. I'm going to put it through the front of the frame. Just crisscross them in the back. Get them pretty secure like that. Wrapped around those 2 back wires. Your flat side of the half round should be facing you. Then we'll just take a couple of wraps to tie those off and to the frame. Tie them to the frame. I'll just leave those 2 half rounds there in case I need to use them for tying on other wire. It should sit pretty much like this. Okay. Right down here at the base of the frame, you can use your plier if you need to, or you can just brace here and brace here. Go ahead and put a 90-degree bend on that wire, a little bit more than 90. And just bring it over the frame, just like that. Position your stone back in here. Just kind of hold it where you want it. Take one of these wires, and I'd be down here on my cry-cut board, holding the stone where I want it. Just cross diagonally, trying to keep my fingers out of your way here. Ooh, it's slippery, little guy. I'm just going to crisscross the stone diagonally, like that. When you get the wire over there, just to the opposite side of the bale, you can hold it down here. Just do a nice curve out that wire, and then you can do the other one. Bring it down across your stone, just lay it down on the stone like that. Pinch down here. Just do a nice outward curve like that. These can be laying nice and just on the bottom edge of your stone right there. And if I were down here on my board, that would have been a little more graceful, right? Could have just done that on your cry cut board. I'm trying to let you see in the camera here. If you need to tighten those up at all, you can get a nice wide plier and give the slightest pinch right here for tension, and the slightest pinch right there. Don't crush them, just so that they kind of prop your stone in the frame there. Just a little pressure on the bottom of the stone. Okay, so I'll hold it right there once I get my wires the way I want it. I'm going to put my thumb right here on this curve, and I'm just going to take the wire and use the side of the stone, come up and make a nice gentle curve around the stone. Then just do the opposite side. You can kind of back jiggle the wire here like this a little bit. It sometimes helps. And just use the edge of the stone, crisscross up here. And that's nice. Just make sure your stone sits there in the middle, that these two come right along the upper shoulders of the stone there. I'll pull this one out and curve it just a little bit more. I'll do the same with this one. Pull it out right here and just give it more of a flare right there. When you get the wires and the stone sitting the way you want it, it should be sitting, so that there's an air pocket around the whole, the same 1 millimeter space we kept. If your stone is symmetrical. If it's not, it may not lay exactly like this, but there's still a little bit of space around everything. So up here at the top then, I'm going to go ahead and kind of earmark where the top edge of the stone is right here. And I'll just crisscross, just hold the wire and the stone where I want it. Just kind of bend these down right there at the edge of the frame. Just start locking these wires into place. Okay? You should have enough to go around this frame wire right here. Just hold right here, push all the way to the back, just crisscross it like that. Make sure your stone is nice and center, and we can still adjust, so don't freak out. Just focus on getting the top as even as you can. Just crisscross the other side like that, and that should be a nice clean little finish right there at the top. We can put these wires back through the frame if we want to. So if you want to do that, I'm going to turn this one down a little bit shorter to match the other one. Just going to take this wire I'm holding, the crisscross up here. I'm not worried about my stone being exactly center yet. It'll get there. I'm just going to turn this tip, feed it through the side, just work it gently through. Take it from the front once you can get it. Just pull it over. Don't pull too hard to make sure it doesn't distort the wire in the front here. And just get a nice snug fit around that frame. make a 360 around that frame. I'm going to trim that just slightly so that it sits more right there on the frame. I'll take a little wider plier once I get my turns done. I'll just give a nice controlled snug tap. Okay, look at it from the front. Make sure that everything is sitting good, and then work the other side. And I'll balance that bottom out in a minute. Okay, so I've got my crisscross knives. I'm going to take a little meatier plier this time. Actually, I'm going to go back to my bed now. So. And I'm going to make a turn right here. I'm going to feed the wire through the side. I'm not pushing, I'm not pulling anything. I'm going to do a little back and forth to help tighten that wire up. Making sure that I'm not over tightening it. I'm going to check the front. Work from the front so you can see what you're doing. Just get the wire over the shoulder. And you can use your pliers to help you get it close. Give a real close cut. Take a nice wide plier and start to ease that turn down. Just like that. Okay, and that should be pretty clean from the front. If you need to tap them together right here, you can do that a little bit. Make sure this wire is nice. Okay. And I'm going to lay mine down for a second because I'm a little off center and this belly keeps wanting to shift on me. It's because I'm working in the air. You shouldn't have this problem if you did this on your board. Okay. So that looks pretty good. It's a pretty good tie. And we have room to add wire around the frame as we like. Okay. And I've got these two down here to help me tie on anything additional. So I'll go ahead and add a wire. I'll take 8 inches of another piece of 18 gauge wire, square soft wire. And I think what I'll do is add wire to the bottom and run it, up to the top. So from the back here, there's a nice little easy spot for me to add wire. I'll just cause a little bend here. I'm going to cause a little upward curve to help me get through this space a little easier. Like that. So I'm right underneath my stone. Right here. And I'm just going to, when I get my wire center, just going to take a nice even bend straight down, just like that. So just like making a pin, except I'm on the frame. And from there, you should have a little bit of a brace because you're going to be against this back one, and you have your 2 wires here that can help you, your 2 half rounds that can help you tie this wire in once you get it turned up. Okay, so my 2 half rounds are out here. Get them under control. Got my pin in there, my wire bent. I'm just going to start to turn it up. I'll take the one, whoop, and I'll just do a little flip right over that first one. Make a cute little turnout like that. Just keep your wire still jiggling a little bit because the other one's not done. So let's get the other one and then we'll work it closer. Hold this one straight up so that one's kind of flipped right next to the other one. Okay. And if, actually maybe we'll tie it because then it'll be easier for you to flip the other one. So while it's there, take your half round, pass through those two, and make a couple of stitches and tie. Just use your fingers and get that one next to it. I'm going to make 3 decorative ties, but on the third one, I'm going to pass all the way to the back side of the frame and then make a couple of wraps around that outer frame to tie the actual 2 wires down. We just tied them together. Now we'll come around here a couple of times. And that'll help hold them to the frame. Okay, so there's one. And now it'll make this one a little easier for you. So just right here with my finger tip, I'm holding the wire back here. Just gonna do a curve around. It'll land on top of the wire, on top of the frame a little bit. And that's okay. Put your finger back here and push. Just kind of work it with your finger until it works back there. You're just holding this nice and straight. If you need to get a plier out to help you cinch that turn down, get a little wider one, get on the add-on wire on both sides of it and just give a little pressure pinch right there. And scooch it down so that it rides right kind of next to the other one. Just like that. Okay? And turn these two, kind of just keep them sloped back. It'll help push the bottom of the wire forward. So then you got your half round, and just like the other one, we'll jump from the back, make sure it's nice and straight. Wrap 3 times around just these 2 wires. There's one. There's 2. Oh, I missed my back frame. Make sure that third one goes through all of them, all 3 of them. So I just pulled it out and passed my third one all the way back so it catches this last one too. And then now make a couple of wraps just around the back one. Okay. Whew. Okay, so we just added a wire. Looks real cute. And now let's take it up the frame. So right here, it should just be riding on the side of your frame, and you can put your pendant down and just kind of give it some loving pats. You know, slant these wires so that, just get them under control so that they're kind of going upward. Mine's turned up on its edge, the one. It's okay, I can turn it back. I'm not too concerned about it. And I'll just use the side of the stone, just like I did the previous one, and start turning the wire, curving the wire. Once I get a nice curve on it, just cross the top like this. I'm going to go ahead and dive to the back with it. So once I got my nice curve going, I'll just slip to the back a little bit so that I have a nice swoop going to the back. And I'll just try to make the other side similar. What I'm looking for down here is, you know, the curve in these two decorative wires to be similar. And then I'll hold everything. If your square wire is turned up on its tips like mine, you can control it right now. Get a plier and turn it a little more square. Square up, okay? Then I'll hold it right there and just make sure I'm tracing the side of my stone here. Just following along the other edge of the wire. Kind of go back and forth. That'll help me make a little more elegant line. Once I get a nice curve, just going to slip to the back with it. This one's in the way, so let's turn this one up. This curve's where I want it, so I'm going to turn it up right here where that wire is. Just put your finger there and turn it right up to the side of the bail, to this side of the bail. And then that way when you swing this one to the back, that one won't be in the way. And you're just looking to see that both of these little curves are nice and elegant, and then they look, you know, either similar or similar enough to your liking. When you get it, same thing from back here, just put your thumb right there, turn this wire up to the side of the bail, just like that. So I have these two little wings out here like this. Okay. Just work them until they look nice to you and that they're sitting, you know, fairly even on both sides. Turn this one a little bit more. Get it a little closer. Okay. And both my wires are going straight up the pendant from the back. Okay. You can hammer those if you want to. You can weave on, you know, you can do coiling, whatever you want to if you want to do something. I'm going to leave them bare wire. And I've got these two that are now running up the back here. I'm going to put a little tie on them, and then I'm going to flip them over the front. So I'll go ahead and get another little piece of 6 inches of half-round wire. If somebody's watching, I'm drinking water right now, so please excuse me for a moment. Okay. Thank you, my dear members, for always reminding me that I need to drink my water. So I've got 6 inches of half round. I'm going to turn this frame around. I'm going to pass behind these two wires, but also through behind the two wires on the stone here. So just try to get your wire in there. Try to get it so that your half round is, the flat side is facing you. I put it in there the wrong way. Sometimes if you curve this little end, it helps you sneak through there a little bit. Just do the best you can. Sometimes going at a little angle helps. There we go. You could also do this with 28 or 26 gauge. 26 gauge would be preferred before 28. 28's a little small. So right there, I've got them both through here. I've centered them. I'm just going to crisscross them, just like that. So now my 2 wires up here are next to the bail, and I've got a half round on them, just like I did the bottom. Turn to the front. You can tie those on. Keep your finger where they crisscross right there. And you can just do like the bottom. You know, take these 2, make a couple of passes around this side wire right here. Just make sure that it doesn't stretch across that shoulder. I motioned mine down a little bit. I'm going to make a couple of wraps. Then I'll go to this side. Okay, still got my finger back here keeping pressure on the half round. And I'm just going to come through this shoulder right here and make sure I'm below that nugget, that wrap right there. Get my half round on that wire and make one more lap. Okay, so now these 2 are tied on at the top here. It's nice, it's clean, and I've got them available to me for upper design. So I can just do my favorite, I'm going to do my favorite kind of flipping over. You guys can do whatever you'd like, but for this one, just flip it over. I got my finger back here so that I can push, just kind of squeeze it down a little bit so that it just rides over my stone right there, and just a little bit over the bail. I'll switch sides. Make sure you still got plenty of room for chain. I'll just use my finger and do the same. Just push and then push, you know, this one back here, and then push with your thumb and just land them right there at the neck. That's quite pretty, nice and clean. Okay, and then you have a little bit of wire here for some curly works, or just to lay 2 nice rails down, and we can hammer those. If you want to flatten these out just slightly, just take a wide plier and give the slightest pinch for tension. Don't let this front one ride up too much. If it does, just wiggle it back. Just wiggle it back. And then this one here, just the slightest pinch for some tension. We'll sand that a little bit. I nicked it a little bit. Don't do that. It's okay, I sand the piece anyway. Alright, and now we can take these. There's not much, so they're going to be short. So I just take the end here, hold your pinch up here, and hold that neck together. And just kind of turn these to give yourself something cute, a little cute something right there. And we'll hammer that. And then you can do the same to this one. I've got a little bit more over here. But I can just give it a nice turn, shape it. And I can make it lay in that little track. Same for this one. I'm going to take a little bit of it off. Trim these so that they're even. I'm trimming them so that they lay inside that little channel. So I'm going to go a little bit higher. That's about right. And I'm going to make this one match and lay inside that channel. Careful not to cut anything else. That's about right. It's pretty good there. Okay, so now we'll pull these out. We'll hammer them. And the easiest way I think to go is probably out. So just take it, don't change the shape of anything. Your hinge is up here at the top, so let it bend out from there, and just get it out far enough that you can hammer it. Not so far that you change your curve at all. Okay, just like that. Get your bench block out. And my stone, I'm just going to hold off the block. Got my finger here in between there. And I'm just going to hammer that bit. I'm actually going to get my smaller hammer. I like it better. And I'm just going to hammer the tip and kind of flare it out, bubble it out. Just striking over and over again. My pendant's upside down because this is the side that's going to face the public, so it's the nicer side that's against my block. And I'll just tap up and blend the wire. Just kind of transition that hammer a little bit. Looks nice. And then I'll round this off with a file and some sandpaper. Alright, so for some of you new to wire wrapping who may not have a set of jeweler's files, this is an emery board. This is the emery board I keep talking about that you can always go get. And it works quite fine on these edges as well. This is the black one. I think I got it at like the drugstore, the Walgreens or something. You know, Walgreens, CVS or the Walmart. So you can just file it down and then do this other side, kind of round things off. Works quite well, this black one. Just like that, and then you can take your finer sandpaper and sand everything. So you can always, for you newbies, this is 800 wet dry sandpaper from the hardware store, and it works great. Just going to take it and give a nice sanding to the metal that I just hammered. And it doesn't, it doesn't take too long to do it by hand. You're just sanding a little bit. And you can just work that until you're happy with it. I'm going to take my little nicks off the top here. And you would be sanding this until it looks like satin, right? You wouldn't leave a bunch of scratches, hard scratches through it. So, you're going to sand it down until it looks about like that. And sanding is optional. I just sand because I hammered it. If you didn't hammer it, you can just do curlies right here, right? You didn't pull it out to hammer. I think you get the idea. That looks pretty good. I'm just going to put it right back where it belongs. And because it's going to want to spring out, I'm just going to over push and then snuggle it right into there. And that looks great. Alright, so now I'll do this side. I'll just pull it out enough to hammer it. Turn it over on my block. Hammer the end and then taper up. That looks pretty good. And then I'll clean it up. Just makes very quick work of taking those rough edges off and rounding out your metal for you pretty well. I always get the back side too. I'm staying upright in my camera, certainly I wouldn't, sand this way. You'd sand properly, but anyway, that's for a newbie. You don't need a whole bunch of stuff. Here's an emery board. Okay, so that's pretty good, and now I'm going to sand this bit. And that's beautiful. So just return that. Now to get these to lay down, hold that tip and then just give a little slight upward push, little pressure to the wire behind the tip if you need it. Put your pendant down and make sure to settle it. Just give gentle pushing to everything. Pinch these two up here, and that looks pretty good. They don't have to be totally perfectly the same. They look pretty good. Just work them until you love them. The other thing I like to do is to just turn these tips out slightly. So I get behind here, hold that curve, and just give a slight bend to add a little flair to it. Just a slight bend. That just makes it look a little more deliberate, and it also pushes these two inward. Okay? So that's so pretty. I'm going to add a bead ball right there, I think, to fill that space. So I'm done with these. If you want to add more wire, you leave these on if you need them to help you. Otherwise, I'm just going to cut it, lay it down really nicely right there. Cut this one. Lay that down nicely. The same for this up here. I think I can just cut it back here. If you want to make a few more for decoration, you can do a few more wraps just for texture. Or if you feel like, you need to grab maybe that extra back bar a little bit, it's here to help you do that. I'll just make 5 nice strong wraps right there. Finish it off down there. I'll cut it. Ooh. Get a cleaner cut on it than I'm doing here. That's terrible. My cutters are no good. Put those cutters away. And then just tap it right there. The front should be nice. Then a few extra wraps kind of looks nice. And then if you need to pinch a wire right there, you can just tap it. And then we'll do this side the same. I did 3, and then I took the next 2 around the back wire. Looking at the front, I've got the same amount of wraps. They look nice. I can be done with this one by either cutting it, in the middle. I guess I'm going to dive it one more time through, actually. I went one more time, I see that. Okay, and then I'll cut it back here. I can cut it deep in there. Give a little pinch. And that should be nice and tucked away, and that's a nice clean finish in the front. Okay. So I'm going to get a couple of copper beads out. That's so pretty. Set it down and just settle your stone. Get a couple of copper beads out and see what I like. This is the fun part. You can embellish. I love these football beads. I'm going to try the football bead again, you guys. See if I can get a football bead across there. Put it on a wire and see. Okay, so I think this little 3mm football bead is going to work great. I've got 6 inches of 26 gauge round copper wire. You could use 28, you could use the 22 half round wire that you've been using. And I'm just gonna see, yeah, my little copper bead is gonna, football bead is gonna fit really nice right there. So you can use a round one there too if it fits. And what I'm gonna do is actually sneak underneath these 2 wires. Let's see if I can thread this bead. And then I'll insert the bead. And I want to come underneath the 2 wires to the other side. So I'm going to take a curve and just come through there like that. Land my bead right there. And I'll pull enough through that I can wrap to the back of the frame here. I'm going to cut this a little bit shorter. Don't need all that. So you just find a nice spot to tie off. And right here, right where you put the half round is actually a great spot. So get it nice and tight, but not so tight that you pull the wire out of the bead. Make 2 or 3 wraps. Nice and neat. Check your bead, looks good. Come over here. Get a nice pull on that. And then to the back frame. Just make 2 or 3 wraps. Side by side. Just leave that right there. I don't think we'll need it again, so you could probably cut these little bits off, but I like to double check my bead. That looks fantastic. And so we'll come back here. Snip it off with just a millimeter or 2, enough to wrap it to the inside of the frame there. Same for this side. Snip with just a millimeter or 2. Wrap it to the inside of the frame. Nice and neat. Looks pretty good. Okay, so pretty much, the pendant can be done. The other thing I might do is, and I'm going to, is probably put a cute little 1 millimeter bead ball up here. You could add 2 or 3 of them if you wanted to, or none at all. You could just cinch these 2 together. I would do something though, well, probably, because we buried these in the channels right here, they're probably never going to pull out, but I would still feel a little more secure if I had a little tie right there. So let me find a bead that I like. Yes. Okay, so fun. They went everywhere. All right. Okay. So I'll continue to use the 26 gauge, it's a 4-inch scrap that I had left over. You can cut a fresh piece. Put the bead in the middle. And you can tie, so you can tie from above, Or you can tie from below the frame wires, meaning like we did at the bottom, I can go below them and sink the bead a little bit. So you can make that decision based on what looks good to you. Let me try to, I'll go below them. We're open right here, so I could make it easy on myself. And just bring this wire underneath there. And so you see if my wrap wires are below the frame wires, then the bead is more recessed. So if I have a very tiny bead like this one, you know, big bead, if it's a big bead, you can do this and you can still see the bead. But this little 1mm, I'm probably going to put it on top. Where'd it go? Well, and I think I just lost it in the frame anyway. Yeah, I got buried in this frame right here when I was pulling. So sometimes that happens and your little bead gets lost in there. So you shake the frame out. So I'll put it on the wire and put it over these two frame wires, okay? So I'll center the frame wire, the wrap wire, and I'm just going to wrap around. It's a little squiggly. Don't pull your design out. Keep your finger, you know, on top of this wire. Make sure you don't pull it clear out. And I'll just get this one side of this wire wrapped around a couple of times here. Make a nice stretch over that space. You can insert your bead. Make sure it lays down nice. Just give a gentle tug right there. I'll get a nice wrap on the opposite side. Just like that. And I'll make the wraps, you know, similar. And if you want, you can actually add a couple more beads. I'm just going to make a few more wraps just so it looks very deliberate and not like a tie-on, like it's more like it's texture. So I do 5, just keep them kind of neat and side by side. Whoop. I think 5 looks good. So I'll do a couple more on this side. And you're pulling, you know, to get the stitch in there, but not so tight that you pull your pretty frame wires out of shape. Just make sure that bead is nice and centered, that your wraps are nice and even. That looks really cute. And if anything, you know, lifted, like this little guy here, he lifted a little bit. So I'm going to hold him down. And I'll just take my thumb and gently give upward pressure. If you don't feel secure about your doing it with your thumb, just take your plier, hold this down, and just give slight upward pressure. Not so much that you change the shape, but just enough that this lays back down in that little channel. Okay, that's pretty clean. So cute. So we can cut this off. So this frame would work really good for ovals too, and it would work for circles. Round cabochon. And it's pretty simple. It's quite clean. It would be beautiful in sterling silver. So certainly you could do this in sterling silver or gold fill. It's got a very clean back. And I hope you enjoyed that. So I'm going to get my favorite chain, my 1.5 millimeter ball chain that I like to use. You can wash this now, do a patina and a polish, and that would just be gorgeous. Just pretty. Look over your piece, make sure that you're totally happy with it. Give little loving taps here and there if it needs it. Do a little sanding if you need it. And then watch the finishing video if you want to do a patina, you know, if you want to do more, if you want to take this out to patina and polish and seal it. Okay, so thanks you guys. I hope you enjoyed that. Thanks for being here with me. I appreciate you always. And let me know how you feel. Let me know if you made one of these cuties. And I'll see you for in the next one. All right, have a good night.